It's a rainy Thursday here in Seoul. Hello and welcome to Business Daily. I'm Lee Ji-yoon. Let's get started with a look at today's highlights. Korea's Prime Minister promises to screen egg farms on a regular basis and strictly enforce food safety standards amid the country's tainted egg crisis. Today marks the 25th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties between Korea and China, and we take a closer look at the economic relationship between the two countries, both in the past, present, as well as the uncertain future. These stories and more coming right up. Korea's Prime Minister apologized once again over the public health scare caused by pesticide-contaminated eggs. He vowed to introduce proper control measures in the agriculture and livestock industries to ensure better food safety. Our Kim Young-gil starts us off.
Prime Minister Lee Nak-yeon once again apologized on Thursday for the effects the ongoing contaminated egg health scare has had on both consumers and farmers.
The Education, Welfare, Defense, Labor, and Trade ministries will make sure that tainted eggs aren't supplied to nurseries, kindergartens, schools, community centers, the army, or workplaces.
Prime Minister Lee said the government will make sure that egg farms are screened on a regular basis and added that health authorities will strictly deal with egg producers who do not comply with the government's food safety standards. He also ordered ministries to learn from the current crisis and vowed to establish thorough countermeasures.
Once the crisis comes under control, the Prime Minister's office will set up a systematic management structure with other ministries to prevent such incidents in the future.
The Prime Minister said that over the course of 10 days, the government inspected 1,239 poultry farms and destroyed all eggs from the 52 farms where eggs were found to contain banned pesticides. The government plans to work with the poultry producers, experts, and the public to establish a system that ensures food safety. Kim Young-gil, Business Daily.
Korea's egg supplies are already running low due to last winter's AI outbreak, and the latest scandal over tainted eggs is pushing prices even higher. Now, this is becoming a concern as Korea looks ahead to one of its biggest holidays when demand for eggs and food in general is expected to surge. Our Lee Ju-young has more.
When the pesticide egg scandal triggered fears across the country, the government halted all new shipments from August 15th. That also brought about a pause in the investigation of egg prices for the following 3 days, judging that the market was not functioning normally. But when the Korea Agro-Fisheries and Food Trade Corporation resumed its investigations, prices remained on an upward trend. While the price of a 30-egg pack fell to about $6.50 after the survey resumed, it rose again on the 21st to 7,445 won or $6.60. That's still roughly 38.2% higher compared to the same time last year. But there is growing fear that egg prices may rise even more ahead of Chuseok, Korea's major harvest festival in October, with demand expected to soar while egg supply remains low. Average daily supply has been cut to about 30 million eggs from what was roughly 43 million before the country was struck by an avian influenza outbreak. The Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs says while there are no problems with egg supplies at the moment, it is considering an import of roughly 100 million eggs ahead of the holiday season. Lee Ju-young, Business Daily.
The Ministry of Strategy and Finance held a roundtable meeting on Wednesday to discuss the domestic economy with regional experts. The meeting focused on the outlook of Korea's economy as viewed by MRO, a research body under the ASEAN Plus 3 bloc of nations. Participants pointed out that the Korean economy is likely to be boosted on the back of strong private investment and exports, as well as an expansionary fiscal policy. But the research body warned that Seoul should be wary of downside risks, including trade protectionism, geopolitical uncertainties, a low birth rate, and rising household debt. As the government promotes its economic policy direction, advisors suggested a restructuring of its spending for fiscal sustainability. Korea will actively respond to protectionist moves by major trading partners while strengthening support for affected companies here at home. Trade Minister Kim Hyun-jong said on Thursday that Seoul's response will be based on the principle of promoting public interest in the face of rising protectionism. He said the government would vigorously express its objections to Beijing's moves aimed at discouraging business with Korean firms. Companies that have lost more than 30% in sales or exports amid canceled contracts will be eligible for support in the form of trade insurance. The head of trade negotiations also promised to strengthen Korea's export infrastructure toward diversification and future technologies to reduce its reliance on China and the U.S. It's the next big thing for many fans as Samsung Electronics has unveiled its new Galaxy Note 8 device. The Korean firm's latest phablet made its debut at a glitzy, high-profile launch event in New York City on Wednesday. Our Elliot Kim has more.
Samsung's Galaxy Note 8, one of the most hotly anticipated smartphones every year, debuted on Wednesday to the delight of fans. Seen as an important launch for the Korean tech firm as it bounces back from last year's literally explosive Galaxy Note 7s. The unfortunate predecessor suffered from endless battery issues, eventually resulting in it being pulled off the market in a massive recall, never again to see the light of day. Samsung, aware of its failings, as well as the legions of dedicated fans who stayed loyal despite the fiasco, is determined to not make the same mistake twice.
Of course, none of us will ever forget what happened last year. I know I won't. But I will never forget how millions of dedicated Note loyalists stayed with us.
Samsung's latest flagship device features a huge 6.3-inch Quad HD Plus AMOLED display, among other features ranging from biometric security options to the processor and memory upgrades users have come to expect with the yearly releases. It also sports a dual camera, the first for a Samsung device, Samsung's Bixby virtual assistant, and enhanced functionality for the iconic S Pen accessory of the Note series handsets. Tech experts agree that the Note 8 is one of the most powerful smartphones on the market, and its release should dispel any lingering doubts as to whether Samsung can still dominate the game.
So I think the Note 8 is going to be a very appealing device to both consumers and business users. It gets Samsung over the Note 7 problems with the battery. It brings a very powerful device into the marketplace.
The Note 8 will hit store shelves September 15th in select markets, including South Korea, the US, and the UK, with other markets set to quickly follow. Elliot Kim, Business Daily.
On the other hand, Samsung could also be facing some bad news. A Seoul court is to deliver its verdict in the trial of Samsung heir Lee Jae-yong at 2:30 p.m. on Friday. The prosecution had requested a 12-year prison term for Lee over bribery charges and other suspected links in the massive corruption scandal that led to the impeachment of former President Park Geun-hye. 4 ex-Samsung Group executives are also on trial and will receive their verdicts tomorrow as well. The financial world is holding its breath as the so-called trial of the century of the country's top business leader draws to a close. And the end is near for Kia Motors' class action wage lawsuit, with a court decision set to be handed down on August 31st. A ruling against Kia could have devastating consequences on the company. If the court rules in favor of the union, Korea's second-largest automaker may have to fork out a huge amount in wage compensation. The estimates range from about $886 million to $2.6 billion to cover the workers' base salary, overtime pay, and severances. Today marks the 25th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties between Korea and China. Beijing has long been Seoul's most important trading partner, but with the recent diplomatic row over the deployment of THAAD and China's economic retaliation against Korea, the strength of their trade ties have now been thrown into uncertainty. Take a look.
Korea and China established diplomatic relations back in 1992, and over the past 25 years, trade volume between the two countries has jumped 33-fold. Although trade with Japan and the US more than doubled and roughly tripled respectively in the same period, it doesn't hold a candle to Korea's skyrocketing trade with China. In 2003, China became Korea's biggest destination of outbound shipments, while Korea also became China's fourth largest export market. However, Korea's recent deployment of a THAAD missile defense system has led to soured relations with China and a downturn in trade. According to Beijing's Commerce Ministry, Korea's investment in China amounted to $1 billion during the first 5 months of this year, down 54.5% on-year. Chinese tourists to Korea also plummeted sharply from March of this year, while Korea's cosmetics exports to China also chalked up negative growth for the first time since April of 2015. And now there are questions as to whether Korea may be overly reliant on China when it comes to trade and what needs to be done to reduce such dependence.
And to tell us more about this, Professor Kim Se-won from Ewha Women's University joins us in the studio today. So good to see you.
Pleasure to be here.
So over the past 25 years, bilateral trade between Korea and China has grown significantly, and also China's economy has grown significantly to become the world's second largest economy.
Right.
Give us an overall assessment.
Well, one of the largest events in modern history would be the rise of Chinese economy. And particularly if we take a look at economic growth of China over the last 25 years, it is 9.9% per year on average.
Wow.
It is something unbelievable number. And in the middle of that rapid economic growth of China and Korea together built up such a successful and mutually beneficial economic partnership. And as a result, China became the largest trading partner to Korea, and Korea became the third largest trading partner to China.
Now, but while Korea has become increasingly dependent on exports to China, China has been reducing trade with Korea. So give us some reasons behind this aside from that.
The main reason for that is because Chinese corporations and therefore industries are much more advanced than before. And there was a very strong supplementary economic relationship between China and Korea before. But it is not like that today. For example, when China produces plastic chair, Korea provides the plastic material and the machines. But these days, China produces a material which is intermediate goods and technology together. So therefore, they need less export from Korea.
So you're saying the industrialization of Korea has made it a global competitor to Korean firms in overlapping sectors.
That's true. Like 10 years ago, Korea used to be an object of envy to Chinese corporations. But in today's global market, Chinese companies and industries are major competitor to Korean corporations. So the major export items of both of China and Korea overlaps in a larger scale, like the ships, steels, and LCD panels, and so on. And China caught up Korean technology so fast under very strong leadership of the Chinese governments.
Now, some say that although trade with China has helped Korea's economy to grow over the past 25 years, it has also led to over-dependence on China. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it is true that the Korean economy became too much dependent on Chinese economy. But it is a natural result of maximizing China-related economic benefits. So to think of Chinese economic growth power, it is so attractive to every country. For example, Chinese GDP is 10 times larger than Korea's. And when they economic growth by 10%, that means Korean-sized GDP and income is generated every year in China's mainland. So therefore, to utilize Chinese economic benefits, we became too much dependent. It is natural. So, but however, as you said, it is right time to diversify our trading partners as Japanese major corporations do over India and South Asian countries.
Going along with that, I mean, as China becomes more technologically sophisticated, export competition for Korea is expected to get tougher from here on out. So how should Korea be ready for this?
Well, that is the most important issue between two countries' economic relationship today. Even though Chinese economy is producing all goods and services they need, they do not produce very important high-tech productions and chemicals and biotechnological productions. So there is more room for Korean corporations to export more to Chinese economy still.
And Korea will also need to overcome China's growing trade protectionism.
Right. Chinese protective trade policies not only apply to Korea, it is concern of every country. And as we are experiencing these days related to thought retaliation, Chinese protective trading policy can be a real threat to Korean export. So it is very important to government level to induce Chinese government to be more involved in multilateral FTAs like the RCEPs.
All right. Thank you so much for your insight today.
Thank you very much.
Finance Minister Kim Dong-yeon plans to increase next year's job budget by 12% to allow the government to create more employment. Speaking at a ministerial meeting earlier today, Kim also hinted at another minimum wage hike in order to boost household income. With the country's wage gap expected to widen for the sixth consecutive quarter, he says structural issues will need to be tackled in order to foster sustainable growth. Kim added the ministry would take a closer look at income distribution factors and introduce policies to push Korea's economy toward people-centric growth. Following China's THAAD retaliations, the number of foreigners visiting Korean duty-free shops has dropped sharply, although sales have increased. The Korea Duty-Free Shops Association says the number of foreign tourists using local duty-free shops in July fell by nearly half compared to last year. But sales, on the other hand, grew steadily from May, following a brief decline earlier this year. In July, duty-free sales by foreigners rose nearly 9% on year, hitting around $695 million. Now, this comes to an average of $655 per shopper, nearly doubling from July of 2016. The association attributed the rise to purchases by so-called daigongs, Chinese traders who buy goods in Korean duty-free shops to sell them in mainland China. And the slump in Chinese tourists here in Korea since Beijing's tour ban has prompted Seoul to reassess and refocus its overseas marketing. The country is keen to attract tourists from new markets, including Muslim nations, as a new source of growth. And our Won Jung-hwan tells us more on the efforts to accommodate the rising number of Muslim visitors who are spending their vacations here in Korea.
With the number of foreign tourists visiting Korea declining for the fifth consecutive month in July, Korea is seeking to reverse the trend by attracting visitors from other countries. According to the Korea Tourism Organization, the total number of foreign tourists last month dropped by over 40% on year, with almost 70% within this figure corresponding to Chinese tourists. However, the KTO also reported that the number of Muslim tourists last year totaled nearly 1 million, which is almost a 33% increase compared to the previous year.
Since the number of Chinese tourists is dropping, the government is targeting travelers from Southeast Asian and Muslim countries as an alternative market. As such, local governments are there pouring efforts into further developing their respective tourism sectors to cater to those visitors.
Popular amusement parks such as Eborend and destinations like Namisam Island in Gangwon-do Province have installed prayer rooms to better accommodate the needs of Muslim travelers. Lotte Department Store followed suit by opening a prayer room at its Jamsil branch in southern Seoul. However, despite such efforts, Korea still lacks enough facilities such as prayer rooms and halal restaurants to cater to the needs of an ever-growing number of Muslim visitors.
We can say it's a bit difficult to get more prayer room in Seoul, which is mostly we have to go to Itaewon. As you know, we are at the most right now. And then other place, I can compare with Japan, which is they have more, prayer room at the attraction place. For Seoul, I think can be improved maybe.
To further draw Muslim tourists in the country, the government is even pushing for easing visa regulations. But still, there are many things to be done to encourage essential needs for the convenience of Muslim tourists for their daily rituals and meals. 원정환, Business Daily.
Hole-in-the-wall restaurants were often hidden neighborhood gems known only to locals and very few outsiders. However, they're now moving into large shopping malls and department stores in cooperation with retailers and distributors. Here's a look at how these quiet neighborhood joints are making a splash in the mainstream restaurant business.
People and money are now flowing into hole-in-wall restaurants, with these types of establishments now gaining in popularity. They range from your average neighborhood hole-in-the-wall joints to even themed tours and food trips abroad.
베이컨 갈게요. 햄 슬라이스.
A venture company that operates and competes on social media through the introduction of hole-in-the-wall restaurants. An SNS page showcases new hole-in-the-wall restaurants every day, such as cheesy foods, spicy foods taken to the next level, and delectable pastries. Its SNS view count is at a whopping 500 million. Half of these are from users overseas. Even after 4 years since its establishment, there are still about 6,000 hole-in-the-wall restaurants being reported per day.
Many people from home and abroad are introduced to these restaurants serving delicious food through our content. I think it has a lot of influence in their everyday lives.
Korea is crazy about hole-in-the-wall restaurants. According to statistics, 9 out of 10 people in the country have been to at least one of them, and interest is steadily rising. With this, the food industry is becoming more and more industrialized. In cooperation with famous restaurants and the food industry, we're able to cook popular dishes at home. Spicy jjampong noodle products, which were developed in cooperation with a famous jjampong restaurant in front of Hongik University, ranked 5th in total sales last year among home meal products. A premium delivery service that delivers food from famous restaurants to your home is emerging, and a new market is being developed.
Due to the development of media such as the internet and smartphones, the means of receiving food services have been more diverse. Because of this, you tend to look for more unique and special food, which is where popular restaurants come into play and have created a social phenomenon.
Hole-in-the-wall restaurants are gradually expanding its influence in the distribution industry as well. A large shopping mall recently opened up in Gyeonggi-do Province. Among the entertainment and leisure facilities, the mall's most prominent feature is the specialty restaurants. More than 100 famous restaurants from all across the nation have opened in this mall. Due to the recession and the popularity of online shopping, famous restaurants offering rare dining experiences are becoming crucial for attracting visitors. In fact, last year, after one department store in Korea brought in a local hole-in-the-wall restaurant, it led to a 26% increase in food product sales, 20,000 more visitors, and a 12% boost in overall sales. A ramen shop in this shopping mall. It's mealtime, and customers have flooded over to the restaurant, making it ever so busy. This restaurant in Seoul's Hongik University area is famous for its rich and delicious soup. It started off as a small establishment, but after facing limitations, it decided to open another branch at a major department store.
Since our original restaurant is in the Hongik University area, it is not accessible for those who live far away.
Now that we have a restaurant located in a major shopping mall alongside other renowned restaurants, it's a good opportunity for us to get some publicity.
I didn't know this was originally a hole-in-the-wall restaurant in the Hongik University area, but I think it was convenient to dine here, being located in a major shopping mall.
Competition in the distribution industry is becoming more intense amid the race to attract the many undiscovered hole-in-the-wall restaurants around the nation. It's not easy to convince owners to franchise, having relied on secret individual recipes and persistence to succeed.
There is a sense of burden that the restaurant should follow the rules and operation policy of the shopping mall. It was difficult to remove their doubts and get them to understand the broader possibilities.
These restaurants are emerging as trendsetters that lead consumption. But as expectations grow higher, disappointment is also starting to bubble to the surface.
In actuality, there are places that call themselves hole-in-the-wall restaurants. They really aren't. As a consumer, it has become more difficult to make a discerning choice. This is why the popularity of these restaurants are often fleeting. As consumers, you should be wary of restaurants that rely too much on fame. And as restaurant owners, it's important to maintain their unique flavors and characteristics.
Hole-in-the-wall restaurants are now expanding across various business sectors. We look forward to them creating a thriving industry that showcases Korea's unique culinary experiences.
And that wraps it up for today. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with more at the same time, same place for your Business Daily. Until then, goodbye.